you help us do it? I lift my hands and told them, I lift my hands and total praise to Amen. In the midst of it all, through every hurt, every pain, you are my peace. You my healing comes from you. Everything I need.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh my, oh my, oh my, oh my. So be it. Amen. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Give the singers another great big God bless you. Blessed us. In fact, just shake a little energy around, just shift it. In fact, just stand up one just and make a complete just circle. Just do like this right quick. Just, yeah, that will help you. That'll help you. That'll help you. That'll help you. My. That was good. Energy is what life is. Levels of energy and emotion, which is just energy in motion, is important to us in our daily experiences and expressions. And even in the worship experience or the gathering of the spiritual community, there's a certain emotion, at least in my background, that I'm used to reaching in, whether it's in prayer and meditation, but always in church. We kind of had a high place that we sort of look forward to. And I think everybody does. Even in concerts, secular concerts, people expect a certain peak somewhere. Maybe it's when they go to a casino and you hit the jackpot or hear somebody else hitting it. It just gives you a little hope that there's a higher place or space. And we experience that in all kinds of human activities. And there's a longing in us, deep in us, for that. Would you go ahead and pull this screen up, brother, upstairs? Thank you. My topic today in the next few minutes is what's good or God about evil, and what's evil about good or God. The theme for the month is evil. And I want to read a passage of scripture that I found it always intrigued and somewhat bothersome. I didn't know it was there for many, many years. When I did learn, maybe 20 years or so, that it was there, I found it curious. And it's Isaiah 45:7, which says, I form the light and create darkness. I was cool with that part. I make peace, because this is supposedly God speaking to and through the prophet. I make peace, and here's the part I found bothersome, and create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. How many of you ever heard that for the first time? This first time you ever heard that passage? Mm-hmm. How many have ever read the Bible? Period. Now, Isaiah 45, after all the years I read it, and I've never heard anybody preach on it. I form the light and create darkness or obscurities. I make peace and I create evil. I, the Lord, do all these things. I'm also intrigued with the scriptural passage that forbids us humans to eat from or live off the tree, which really means the truth of the knowledge, which means the science of good and evil. We're not supposed to eat off the tree or truth of duality. And yet, the original couple did, whether you believe that as a literal or allegorical presentation of Scripture in the narrative. Evidently, both good and evil were created by the sky god in the Hebrew Scriptures. And yet everything God created in that same chapter says, the Scripture says, was good. And if this is true, evil must have some good to it. If everything that was created by God, and John later on, several thousand years later, writes that everything that was created by God, and everything that God created is good, then what is evil except a contortion or distortion of good? That evil is some kind of an expression of good, whatever good is. Whatever God is, whatever evil is. Today, and each time I speak this month, I'm going to share thoughts on the good or God in evil and the evil in good or in God. What if they're not so much enemies, but comrades, cooperative friends? What if good is just not just the absence of evil, but not always the opposite of it? And what if evil is the absence of good, but not necessarily the opposite of good? This is speculative, of course. And do we get mixed up? Maybe we were forbidden to eat from the tree or truth of the knowledge or science of good and evil because we couldn't handle it well. I'm struggling with it now. There are things in our body. We have good bacteria and bad bacteria. We have eliminations out of our body that were originally supposedly good to and or for our body that we willingly, eagerly, intentionally imbibed or ingested. There are things about our lives that seem good and evil. Evil, the Hebrew word used here is ra. R-A, well, it has a little hyphen or apostrophe there. It means bad or destruction or calamity or adversity, affliction, distress, displeasure, mischief. From another Hebrew word that's spelled R-A, it would look like a little apostrophe, A-H. And that means to spoil or to ruin or to make of no worth, no value. To ruin. To break into pieces, good for nothing. And then good just means pleasant or pleasing, appealing, beautiful, bountiful. Figuratively, good means enough, satisfaction. And when you compare, if not compete, all those different parts of your life, which one would you do without, and would you recognize good if there was no evil? I mean, what would you use as a base to appreciate or depreciate it? Would you recognize evil, what you call evil, if there was no comparative or counter action, which would be good. And how do we manage these things? Evil right now is happening with the Kurds and with the evil is what our president just did in some ways by making our people who were our allies, who worked with us and fought with us in the Middle East, to be vulnerable to their enemies now. They're being slaughtered and killed. And there's a lot that's happening in Washington that most of us would consider evil, whether you voted for that president or not. And you needn't say so in this service today, because I'm not in the mood for it. I might become evil. There are things that are happening on our border right now. There are things that are happening all over the world, and what's happening in the Far East or in the Middle East are religious people fighting religious people and doing horrible things to each other around their religious beliefs. But that's understandable. Now, those are the Abrahamic faiths of Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, who believe in a God that I just described or read a passage about, one who creates evil. I do all these things. As long as you believe in a God that is evil or devil, and English is the only language where the term for the deity is suggestive of the term for beneficence, good. Bene volens. Bene means good, volition, will. Goodwill. So this God is a little bit schizophrenic in that you never know which part of it you're going to experience any given day, heaven or hell. If you think your God hates anything or anybody enough to torture it infinitely or even temporarily, and you're devoted to that God, you don't have as much trouble torturing or punishing the Catholics or the Jews or the gays or the blacks or the people of color or the atheists or the agnostics or the Unitarian Universalists or the evangelicals. If you think your God, and you're devoted to that God, hates a certain group, clan, club, or clique, country or culture, continent, you don't mind dropping a bomb on that continent, culture, country, character. And as long as the world, and most of the world, does believe in a God with dual personalities or dual personifications, good and evil, we're struggling as a race, as a species, as to how to carry out those character traits or how to manage them in our own consciousness. There's a part of me that is evil or angry or vicious or violent or vindictive or vengeful, competitive and complaining and whining and waning that needs to go home. And there's a part of me that is happy and healing and hopeful and embracing and positive and powerful and compassionate and forgiving and tolerant that is standing before you. But I could switch if you tell me you like what's happening in certain parts of our government. Now, so I'm just as dangerous as the thing I'm warning you about, and so are you. Sitting out there looking at me like you're not. English is the only language that the term good sounds like its name for its God. No other language is God sounds like its word for benevolence. Good, God in a monotheistic thought is conceived of as the supreme being, the creator, the deity, the principal object of faith. In most cases, God is conceived as being omniscient, that is all-knowing, omnipotent, all-powerful, omnipresent, present everywhere. Not a spot where God is not. Whether that's, David writes to say, even if I make my bed in hell, you are there. Where can I flee from your spirit? Where can I go from your presence? Everywhere I am, God is. Well, then when you say everywhere I am, God is or good is, if God creates both and has that as part of its essence, then everywhere you are, evil is. And if good and evil exist everywhere you are, that's you, good and evil. And if that's true, how are you going to deal with that? How's that working for you? Or how's it working on you? Or how's it working as you? Not a one of you has not experienced anger to the point that you want to verbally denounce somebody, maybe even curse somebody, or where I come from, cuss somebody. Church folk usually don't curse people. I mean, cuss, from my background. We're not supposed to cuss, but we will pronounce a curse on you. It's called an accusation. To be accursed, that somebody is cursing you or putting a curse on you. God's, in all cultures, puts blessings on curses on people. Most of the shaman or the medicine men or the soothsayers or the witch doctors or the warlocks can bless or curse you with that thing. People didn't go to a witch doctor just for evil. They went there for healing or for blessing. And we go to church for blessings and curses. And we go to church because we bless and curse, or feel cursed and need a blessing, or feel blessed and would like to be blessed as we curse, or blessed because we cursed, or forgiven because we want to cuss, or because we did yesterday and we're going to do it tomorrow on the job. So we're wrestling constantly with these two energies that flow through us. All cultures, countries, continents have their idea of a God or divine extrasensory, I would say, or their God is being extrasensory or extraordinary. We think our gods are good. God is not a name, but a title. But in our language, it doesn't just represent power, as all gods do. It represents good. It represents benevolence, and it represents the moral best. And yet at the same time, most Westerners, and really people all over the world, have a dual concept of God. We don't refer often to its anger, but we worship, cower, bow, try not to break the rules because we're afraid that the gods can be angered. Well, sometimes what we call natural disasters are really unnatural disasters. They're not the nature. That's the norm. But we're afraid if the sky grumbles or thunders and too much rain, and all over the world there's been too much rain, too much more floods than we're used to talking about. Tsunamis, earthquakes, these are called in most consciousness, if not cultures, acts of God. Storms of biblical nature, apocalyptic, that really means revelation, but we associate it with disaster. And most folks are afraid of God. And sometimes you're suspicious of good because good can switch on you. The good person you married, the good child you birthed, your best friend, your good school teacher, your good principal, your good pastor, or your good priest, or your good president could change everything that once was good or seemed noble and trustworthy in our culture has been proven to be the opposite of that at various times. Whether that's a police officer, a law enforcement, a politician, our favorite actors and preachers and pastimes, everything is questionable now and questioned. It's hard to know what is right, who is right, because there is some good in every evil, and there's some evil in every good. How do we balance it out? As a quote-unquote problem solver, in evil can be extremely broad concept. In everyday language, it's often more narrowly to denote profound wickedness. Wickedness, our English word wickedness comes from the idea of wicker or weaker, wickedness. You're weak. Wicker furniture is furniture made of pliable twigs. It's called wicker. It's things that can be made into baskets or chairs. But it's not branches or trunks or logs that you can't bend. It's something that is twistable, pliable, that you can make something strong out of something weak. So and wickedness are similar. Anything that can't stand the test, we question, even in our own character. If there's something in you that you're not sure is strong, you fear it. That could be anger, that could be jealousy, that could be greed, that could be covetousness, wantonness, that could be arrogance or ignorance, but we're constantly threatened by our own selves. Maybe even by our own souls. We're always trying, often we say, I had to bite my tongue. Why? That hurt to bite your tongue if you actually bit your tongue. We bite our tongue to keep from killing somebody, or cussing somebody, or cutting somebody, or saying something hurtful, or even harmful, or devastating. We're quick to, sometimes ouch could be interpreted to say a lot. Raising the voice, that pain gets a reaction. Your first response is to defend yourself. Your second response is to defend by offending. If you block a hit, what's the next? You block the next hit, you keep on blocking. It looks like the blocking becomes, after a while, you're blocking somebody's head, you're knocking somebody out. That's a natural human reaction. If somebody beeps their horn at you riding, it's fairly offensive. It's even offensive if you're sitting at a stoplight, looking at a text, and you didn't notice that the light turned green. And the person behind you, if they just sort of beep, that's all right. But if they blow, you want to go, what's your problem, dude? The only reason you saw the green is because you had just finished reading your last text. Now, you know that you might be just as impatient if the person in front of you wasn't paying attention to traffic and was reading a text and you were late for something or you're in a hurry. And so you've done that before, but you don't like it done to you. Talk to me, somebody. Somebody cutting in front of you. It's not that big a deal if somebody gets in line ahead of you, unless you're in such a rush and such a hurry that you are impatient and you're full of anxiety, and then an evil part comes out of you and you go, there is a line. The end of the line is back there, sir. Have you ever had anybody say that to you? First, and you know they're right, and yet you feel wrong about them for being right. And you think maybe they're wrong for noticing that you're wrong. How do you handle all this? First, you have to be aware that you have the capacity to be unkind and to be judgmental. That inequity and iniquity are similar things. When you are unfair, you can be judgmental and harsh and Protestant or protesting and contesting and resisting and resenting. And how much of your day is spent doing that? How many of your conversations are negative? How many of your thoughts are critical and nitpicking, even about yourself? We're going to leave here in a minute and go do what we're going to do the rest of the afternoon. Most of us will go to work tomorrow or get back to what is work, even if you work from your home, or later on this afternoon. Or you're going to run by your mothers or your grandmothers or your godmothers or your best friend, or run to get something to eat or call somebody or check on somebody. You're not going to do all that you're supposed to do this day. Some of you did it before you came. Some of you say, I'll do it tomorrow. You want to check, you want to have fun. You want to lay out. You want to get a little sun. You want to sit out on your porch, front porch or back porch or your terrace. Or you want to go sit in the sauna, or you want to work out, you want to run, you want to go by the gathering place, you want to catch a movie tonight, you want to catch the news tonight, you want to have lunch, then you decide how much you're going to eat at lunch, and what are you going to do with dinner, and what time you want to get to sleep tonight because you want to get up in the morning. And when you get up in the morning, what are you going to do? You go through the same routine every day. Some of your energy is inspired by your anger, or your passion, or your pain. That doesn't mean it's bad. Doesn't even mean it's wrong. It does mean it's real. And how do you deal with the real passion and the real anger or angst or urges or unctions or itches? And we have them all. We're constantly scrambling, scratching, trying to what? Feel comfortable in our skin and with our kin and with our can'ts and shouldn'ts. Our don'ts and won'ts and wants and wills and cans and shoulds and might and didn't and haven't and won't and did and shouldn't have done, or should have done more of what you did, or you didn't do what you did, what you were supposed to have did. Okay, done. All right. Jared Wood, now I don't need you correcting me. No, he corrected my grammar, and it was right. But it was wrong to correct me, and when I'm standing up in front of people have said to me, I have corrected people from the platform. Y'all know I do that all the time, and it's my correction is correct, and because I'm the leader at that time, and they might be on my staff, or I don't want them misrepresenting what we say, so I correct them openly. But let me tell you where that came from. I came from a background where most of the people, even in leadership, were not educated and didn't have a great command of the language. And so, and I'm dealing with generations that go back 60, 70, 80 years, so they didn't have proper teaching, and the ones of us who were taught, often the leader, would correct them quietly, sometimes from the pulpit. I saw that many of Mother Hale would do it. She was the first African-American female to graduate from Oberlin College. She was the state supervisor of women in California, a very proper lady. Mother Cora Berry was her assistant, and she was a school teacher and articulate and smart. And so some of the little backwards sweet saints that we called saints couldn't read. And they didn't have a command of the language. And they were thinking about our generation coming up behind them, so they didn't have time to have classes. So they literally corrected us lovingly, like Jared, I guess it was love. No, this man's got a brain. He stood up there today and he mentioned names. You know, he wasn't reading that. He's blind. And we don't do Braille here. So somebody rehearses to him back in the office before we come out what announcements need to be made. They would have just handed it to me on a sheet. So he stands up there, and I watch him every Sunday with great envy in my heart that he just spouts it out. He did 3 or 4. Sometimes he does 6 or 7. I want to throw some kind of shoe or something. He just bam, bam, bam. And then he adds, he embellishes. He says things if he knows them. He's very creative. He's very astute. He's very smart. If anybody should correct me, it should be him.
I don't feel it. But I don't feel it.
And I love that about him. And he's that anywhere he goes, he has a command of the subject matter. So what you do is you appreciate that good. You don't get insulted about it. I'm using it as an example so it won't make me look as stupid as he made me look. You see the good in that. You see the gold in that. Your parents can be the same way, and you may be upset because they're always correcting you. You know they mean well. Or somebody that you work along with on the job, and they honestly love you. You kind of trust them. Every once in a while, they get tired of your stupidity, and they'll bring something up in a tactful, tasteful, timely way and tell you in a very dignified way that you're stupid. If that's the way you receive it. It has to do with the way you receive it. Say it has to do with the way I receive it. The whole vision, the whole version, the whole plan. I'm going to stop. I have so much that I can say, but I don't really have the time to say it. And I never do in these lectures, but I want to just make this one last point. In beginning, gods, the scripture says, the Hebrew word is Elohim, gods, not one, that will be El. In beginning, gods, that's either a council or consortium of deities or entities, possibly extraterrestrials, created the heavens and one earth. Heavens. And one earth. The primary or first nature of divinity is to create. Your divinity is to create. In beginning, gods created high reaches, rhythms, regions, spaces, places, phases of consciousness. That's what heaven figuratively means. Not as much a place as a space. Up there-ness. In beginnings, higher reasonings, higher rhythms, higher existence, higher realities. There are a multitude of heavens or higher places and spaces in our universe. Our world, or in our that are recognized in the earth realm. according to the best estimates of astronomers, there are at least 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe. A galaxy is a system of millions of or billions of stars together with gas and dust that are held together by gravitational attraction. There are billions of them out there. We could basically say infinity out there. In beginning, infinity created infinities. We could also say that of the depths of the oceans. We've never been to the full depths of the ocean. The deepest body of the seven seas is the Pacific Ocean, where I come from. Pacifica, peace. It's really the stormiest of the seven seas, but when Cabrillo, one of them, went across, didn't experience any storm, went to South Pacific, and so he named it Pacifica. It's my favorite place to be, is to sit on the coach and look at the ocean waves and feel the wind. What's under the water? 70% of the Earth's surface is water. So is 70% of you as a human being. When you're born, you're 80% water. You swim for 9 months in water, or you float. You don't need oxygen in the womb. By the time you're 9 months there, most of the amniotic fluids is urine, yours. Bodily fluids, urine, sweat, semen. That's the 100,000 miles of arteries vamping and coursing through those veins are moisture or water. 96.5% of the whole earth is water because we have them in rivers and tributaries and permeable rocks and mist, and your puppy, your dog, everything has got water in it. So moisture and mist and mysteries and clouds and gases and all that stuff are who we are. It's infinity. In that, all of that are bombs, nuclear explosions, floods, tornadoes, hurricanes, rain, and yet we drink that water. We live off that water. It's good and evil, or can be. Too much or too little of anything can be a mess to you. So as you look at evil and find the good or gold in it, don't criticize yourself for it. As bad as things are in our country, and there's a lot of bad things going on, our leadership is failing in so many ways. There's a lot of quote unquote evil. I'm trying to find the good on the other side of that. It's not always the opposite of that, but it's the absence of that. Make it work. Wrap your arms around yourself like this. This is a compliment if you accept it as one. I think you're divine. I think you're a goddess. You're a deity. You're powerfully creative. You helped create this moment. You started not just last night when you decided to come, or this morning when you decided to come. You're creating your next moment. You're thinking about tomorrow and next week and the holiday season and 2020. We're not just created, we're creative, and we are creating as we sit. Let me remind you of how powerful you are and how pivotal and critical you are to the reality that you create and the one that you create for others around you. You are very influential. You are fluid. You are in a flow. You impact and impress. Sometimes you depress people, including yourself. Just be aware of your own godness, which is your own goodness. What's regarding how you manifest and manage your goodness, evil is present or not. I want to commend you for being gods and goddesses are good. And if something else manifests in that, be aware of it. Be intentional and be preventional. You can prevent and invent. You decide what you want to do when you want to do it, because you're really powerful. I respect that in you. I salute it in you. I actually celebrate that in you. And I hope you'll celebrate it as you leave. Not with arrogance, but with confidence. Go out and make the world a different place. Not just a difference in the world, but a different world. starting with your own consciousness, self-awareness, and then those you're going to be with this afternoon and tonight and tomorrow. You are powerful enough to do that. I love you. I believe in you. We embrace you and encourage you to be one of the all souls that exist in this community and everywhere you go. Peace and blessing on you all. Thank you so much.
Let's stand together. You're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand. Take somebody's hand, would you? Oh, you're my brother, you're my sister, so take me by the hand. Together we will work until we're done. There's no foe that can defeat us when we're walking side by side. As long as there is love, we will stand.
Hey, we're so happy you're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed
and be a blessing.